Welcome to the Tour Life podcast from Well, Better, Best. I'm Janine, your host, integrative nutrition health coach and personal trainer. In the past 10 years, I've had the privilege of meeting some of the most interesting and hardworking professionals in the music industry. Whether you are a fan of live music or someone who actually puts on the shows, you'll find some great stories, advice, and encouragement to live a happier, healthier life doing what you love. Today's guest is an artist who I met through his collaboration with Family of Geniuses. In this episode, we talk about growing up abroad, expanding your worldview through language learning, building genuine relationships, and how important it is to fail. You can find him on Instagram at @WhereIsBardo. Here is my conversation with my good friend, Bardo. Hey, Bardo, how are you?
I'm doing great, Janine. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for coming on the podcast after you did a photo shoot for us.
Thanks for having me. I'm loving it. I'm loving the collaboration that's going on right now. It's been fun so far.
Yeah, it's exciting. Well, while we were doing the photo shoot, because so I'll just tell whoever's listening what's happening. There's like a streetwear thing, and so you were just modeling because we're like, oh, look at him, he has a pretty face. No,
Thank you.
No, but actually, we just thought you were a cool artist, so obviously that helps. But you mentioned that you had lived in Japan and you were telling me all this stuff that like I just got little bits and pieces, so I'm excited to talk to you about it. So Tell me, how did you get involved in the industry and what sparked your interest in music in the first place?
Man, I think I always had a love for music and like a passion for music and hip hop, especially. Just growing up, my parents were in their early 20s when I was born, so they were like definitely into hip hop, very much into hip hop and like neo soul and all the stuff of the kind of early, mid, late 90s, early 2000s. So I think I was just surrounded by a lot of dope music all the time. I remember my mom playing the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill when it came out. I remember, my dad playing Wu-Tang and Tribe Called Quest and Jill Scott and Omar. Like there's so many, artists I could name, but just like the kind of great, great artists and hip hop, not just hip hop though, but like black music of the 90s and 2000s. So I think it was always there, but I wanted to play basketball early on. I wanted to do what my dad did. My dad was a pro basketball player. So I kind of wanted to go in that direction as well. But I ended up kind of not taking that path. And, I found myself in high school, like instead of working on my game, I would be like trying to write songs or freestyle or I remember my mom got me a microphone, like this old Audio Technica I just put in my closet. I would put McDonald's cup holders up on the wall because I saw it in Hustle and Flow, like they had the egg cartons all over the place to soundproof the room, and it didn't work. But I just found myself like in that closet all the time, like just trying stuff, just messing around, whatever it was. I started a group with one of my good friends at the time. And yeah, just like music was the thing that just kept calling me back, like recording and making beats and just, just that was really like I was working on my game, but like I should have, if I was going to go down the basketball path, I probably should have taken that time to do that with my basketball game, which I did, but not like I did with the music. So eventually I was like, man, I must love this because I kind of like, drop everything to do this all the time. I'm always coming back home, rushing to the closet. Like that's all I'm doing is just going back to that closet and, setting my laptop up and doing my thing. So.
Yeah, it's like you try to focus on something else and then it's always on your mind, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I kind of, I went through a lot of different stages and names and iterations and all that stuff. But towards the end of my college career at Illinois in Champaign, I met James Treichler, who was like the head engineer at Pogo Studio in Champaign, which is like a really like historic studio in like downtown Champaign. And they're kind of like famous for, I know REO Speedwagon used to record there, and a lot of other people. Mark Rubio's the owner, super cool dude. I think he's now at Blackbird in Nashville. But anyway, I got connected to James through him. After a lot of phone tag, and the studio had closed down, but I was able to connect with James at I think it was at his home studio or a couple different studios that he worked at in Champaign, because he was kind of, James is like the man in Champaign in terms of like mix engineer. He's like your go-to guy. So I got connected with him, and we just did a couple sessions, and like we hit it off the first session, just talking, like just having a conversation. We were like, we both are pretty chill dudes, and I think we got along like right off the bat. And then yeah, from there he introduced me to like pretty much the whole scene in Champaign. I got to meet like majority of my current band members through that whole experience being involved in the scene down there. And I think I would say that's what really like got me going. That's when I was able to create my album Gringo that I put out in 2017, and kind of like step into this new phase where it really is it's my life now.
So when you were in school, were you like, did you have like a basketball scholarship, or like what was going on with basketball at the time?
Oh, no. I stopped playing
No?
basketball after high school. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I had a couple of like offers like from Division 3 schools, Division 2 schools. But I really wanted to do kind of like the big school thing. And I didn't, by the time I graduated from high school, like I had a lot of knee problems and this and that, but I realized like I didn't really love it enough to like keep it going and turn it into even more of a job than it already was. So I was just, I kind of had to be honest about it and be like, I'm just gonna do the regular student thing. And I went to Southern Illinois University in Carbondale my first year. I can't leave that out because that was a dope experience. And then I ended up going to University of Illinois that next year and finishing out my college there. But yeah, I was just a regular student. I worked. I did a lot of video work. I worked in the Office of Public Affairs. I worked I worked camera at the basketball games and the football games and like tennis matches and like all the kind of sports stuff. So I was basically in the like, video production. I did video production for like, the sports. I was in the student run video production group down there. So it's called Illini Productions.
cool.
Yeah, it was.
So you were in there like doing creative stuff. Like you went to school for creative stuff.
Actually, no.
No?
My school,
What?
yeah, my time in school was like all over the place. I was just, I started off studying English. I didn't really like that. Then I switched to Spanish because I was always like good at that in high school. And that's pretty much what I stuck with. I like majored in Spanish, and then I had I ended up taking Portuguese from there because like the director,
That's crazy because I have a Spanish degree.
really, I heard you talking
Yeah.
about, I heard you talking about like your students. We were talking about Cardi B the other day in the car, and you were talking about that. I was like, oh, that's dope. I got to bring that up at some point. But yeah,
That's hilarious.
yeah.
Cool. So that's funny. You're like, I speak a little bit of Spanish. Were you fluent, or did you already?
No, not
No,
at
just a
all.
little bit. So you had to learn, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I was just good at the class, basically. Like
Yeah.
in school, I was good at the class. I have like an aunt who's from Puerto Rico, so like that was kind of, she was my introduction into kind of Latin American culture and whatnot. But I was always super into it. I was always super into the music. My best friend is Puerto Rican, so like actually a couple of them now. But I always kind of there was some kind of link there. I always felt some kind of kinship with brown folks. And I decided like, why not? I'm good at the class. I don't mind. I never minded doing like my Spanish homework. I always really liked it because I always wanted to be fluent at some point. So yeah, even now I'd say like I'm on the path, like I'm very close to where I want to be, but I'm still not exactly where I want to be. because I didn't get to study abroad, but that's like a whole different that's a whole different conversation. But I've since graduating from school, I've been able to travel like a whole lot throughout Latin America. Vanessa and I, and like it's been tight. It's been really tight. So that's I've kind of like slowly built my skills through that. Like every time we travel, it just builds a little bit. But obviously the ideal situation would be to like be immersed in it.
Yeah, for sure. That's funny that you have like an almost studied abroad situation because I had the same sort of thing. I knew Spanish, so I majored in Spanish because it was kind of just like the easy way out of college for me because all I was doing was taking like 400 and 500 level classes.
Okay.
And then but I also was taking French because I like taking French like culture classes and things like film.
Okay.
And so I was like, ooh, maybe I'll go to Paris and I'll study. But then life happened and then I couldn't do it. And so it's always like one of those things that like, oh,
Yeah.
never got to do it.
Yeah.
So I feel you.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
get you. Yeah.
So with Japan, huh? Do you because you said your dad was a professional like overseas basketball player.
Yeah, he played on just about every level, honestly. Like he was drafted into the NBA and by the Atlanta Hawks. He played for the San Antonio Spurs, Dallas Mavericks, Detroit Pistons, Grant Hill's rookie year. And then yeah, he played in so many places overseas. He also played in the CBA, which was like I think it still exists now, but like a minor league, I suppose. And then yeah, he put overseas. He played in, geez, I don't even know, man. Italy, Spain, Germany, France, Venezuela, Japan. But anyway, yeah, a lot of places. I'm sure there's more.
And where did you get to live? You got to live in Japan and where else?
Yeah, Italy, Spain, and Japan. But like the Italy and Spain, I have like vague memories of because I was like a little kid. And then Japan is the one I like. That was the longest, and that's the one I remember the best. So, yeah, that was crazy.
So how do you think that all affects the way that you live your life now?
Completely. Yeah, completely. I think it just like opened me up in a way like just living somewhere as different as Japan is. Although they have, it's not like it's a third world country or anything like that. They have like a lot of probably more modern technology than we do here, but just the to be in a culture that's so different, to like look so different from everybody there, but to still kind of like find a way to kind of get around and do your thing and find friends and all that kind of stuff. It was like it was really dope. It left a mark on me that I don't think I was even aware of until I was about like maybe 20, 21, something like that. But yeah, Japan is an amazing place. I was very fortunate to like, to have parents that realized that like Tokyo is a super safe city. So they let me go out and ride my bike around. And I went for what I felt like was all over the city on my bike, as, like a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, just, riding around. I went to an all Japanese kindergarten, called Furu Ichiba, where we had to like wear my mom always like still talks about this, like we had to wear these like blue smocks and these yellow hats called boshis. And like yeah, it was like, I don't know, I hated it at first, and because they wouldn't let me like wear my watch that I had, like this new watch I got. They wouldn't let me do that. They wouldn't let me ride my bike to school. So I just like hated it for a while. But I eventually like I made friends actually through dodgeball, because we would play dodgeball like at recess or whatever. And like they had the kind of the most popular kids were the ones that were the best at dodgeball. And then like I kind of got good at it, and then that was, I guess, how I got my respect as a kindergartner or whatever. And then
Oh,
we
that's
had
amazing.
we had relays and all that kind of stuff, and I was just good at all the athletic stuff, so they kind of liked me after that. But
Yeah, you found your niche.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I did that. Yeah, I went to second grade there too, and that was dope. That was a different experience. That was more of an international school, so I had like friends from kind of all over in that school. But that was really dope too. So
So I imagine that being little, you had to deal with a lot of uncomfortable moments, huh?
for sure, yeah, yeah.
Do you think that helped you later on? You said that when you're like 2021, you noticed that it made an impact on you. So in what ways?
I think just being able to like relate to people, I think it helped me a lot, like just tremendously in that way, and realizing early on that like not everybody is the same, or not everybody's like you, not everybody thinks like you, not everybody has to think like you. Everybody has their own way of kind of going about their day, but most of the time, if it's different than yours, it's probably pretty interesting, because they're probably doing something, or looking at something or approaching something in a way that you hadn't thought of before. So I think that definitely helped, just being able to relate to people, understand people a little bit better. And then it just kind of like left a passion for like learning languages and like learning new cultures and traveling and all that stuff, because I got to see how big the world was, from 5 to like 9, at a which is a super impressionable age. So when I got back to the States or whatever, like I liked it. It was cool, but like I knew it wasn't like I knew there was a lot of world outside of the United States, and I was like, after a while, got super kind of like itchy to explore it. Um, so yeah, that's what I would say it did.
Was it I'm taking from like my experience, right? So my experience is I went to a couple schools like in Indiana, right? Like right outside of Chicago. But they were just like normal, like there wasn't, like you have like school sports and like and whatever, but there's really not a whole lot of stuff outside of that.
Mhm.
So for me, it was like thinking of a career in a creative field wasn't really something that ever crossed my mind. Like for my parents coming from Mexico and being immigrants, the careers that they assumed existed were like you could be an executive or you could be a lawyer
Yeah,
or you could be a doctor, and anything other than that was like just it just didn't
for
exist.
sure.
And so I never really dabbled in creative things. So do you think that because you saw that there was so much more world out there and there was so much diversity in just all aspects of life, do you think that that helped you kind of build like a broader worldview that allowed you to experiment more and go outside of the box?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it left me curious. So, I think that was the biggest gift. It just gave me so much curiosity to know that there was, again, like you said, there's so much out there to explore, and that kind of became my goal. After a while, I was like, man, how do I get into something that like I can, no matter how long I do it, no matter how much I experiment or whatever, like I'll never hit that wall where I just know everything. Like, yep, I know exactly how to do this. Like I've had certain jobs, I won't like be specific, but like I've had certain jobs where, you figure out what you have to do, you get the routine down or the formula down, and then you just do it. And then there's a point where you just kind of know what you have to do, the best way to get around that job. But I feel like with music, that's one of those things that like if you want to, you don't ever have to stop exploring genres or approaches or like recording techniques. Like I'm into gear, I'm into sound design, like all that kind of stuff. You could learn more about theory. You could, learn more instruments. So that's what really always intrigued me about music. It was like, man, I could get really good at rapping, sure, but what about then I got to figure out how to make beats. All right, now I want to play piano. Now I want to do guitar. Now I want to, yeah, I think it goes on forever. And I think language is a similar thing. And that's why I'm super into languages as well, because I know I could dedicate the rest of my life to learning languages and I still probably wouldn't learn all of them. But that's super cool to me. Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it gives you like a more panoramic view of everything,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So it's just like a wider lens.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So what about we know each other through Adam
Yep.
Wayne,
Yep.
who is your roommate,
He
which I
is.
didn't even
Yeah, I
know.
think he's downstairs
Um,
somewhere right now.
oh yeah, so he cracks me up because we'll have these conversations and like we'll talk about how there's like there's some people, which I found out, like, I was reading The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, and they were talking about like different types of people and like circles, and like some of them are like connectors. So we were talking about how our friend Chris Hirschman, who you know, the photographer, how he's a connector. Like he's kind of like in the middle of everything. Like
Uh,
he connects a lot of people. But I feel like Adam's kind of that way too.
yeah, I would definitely agree with
Um,
that.
yeah, and it's like it's definitely it's so different. Like like even like the song that you did with Family of Geniuses, like if you listen to all their other stuff, like you wouldn't just, think like, oh, Bardo is doing like a collab with them. And like it's not like a given. It's not like super obvious. And then when you hear it, it's like surprising and it's like it's really nice and like it sounds great. So how did that happen? Like how do you get into these different circles? How do you meet all of these people that are different? And is it uncomfortable for you, or does it come easily for you?
That's a good question. So the way I've met like all these people and kind of been able to do these different types of collaborations and whatnot is really through those connected people like you talked about. So I think like it's almost like Uno cards, like there's some people like, or one relationship might be just one card is like a green three, and that green three is dope. When you have something that comes up where you need a three or you need a green card, like you can definitely use that. But I feel like those connected people, for whatever reason, based on where they're at in their ecosystem, they're kind of like a draw four or like a wild card draw two, or those might not even be cards, but you get what I'm saying. Those people just come with like even more. So if you can stack those on top of each other, then you really, then you open yourself up to an entire scene. And I feel like that's kind of like I got very lucky in meeting Adam through James, who I mentioned before, who was like my connector for the Champagne scene. James connected me with Adam, who I definitely believe is a connector up here in Chicago in this particular scene. And yeah, from there, we got really cool. We started playing bass in my band, um, and yeah, and so I knew he was doing. I was kind of around when he was starting to work with Family of Geniuses, and they were putting that whole thing together. And then I met Augie, and I don't know if you met Augie, but he's like the coolest dude ever, like one of the coolest human beings ever. And
Yeah, Augie's great
yeah,
for
and
sure.
he's a force, and he's got like an energy that like always really kind of inspires me. Like, man, I gotta get in the studio. Like this dude's knocking out 6 songs a day. Whatever it is. He's just like
He's a doer for sure.
absolutely. So he and I would always kind of like when we could talk about music, talk about what we were doing, and I think just develop like a pretty cool friendship over time. And I think after a while, we were playing so many of the same shows together and stuff like that. It was like, man, we got to do something. And we both had, Adam obviously always has us top of mind, and Family Genius is top of mind. And then, they were top of mind for me. Like, man, I really want to do something with them. And yeah, just eventually, I think it was Augie who was like, yeah, we got this. I got this song. I think you'd be dope for. And he sent it to me, and I listened to it for a little bit, like maybe a couple hours, and like I got something together, and we met up at Ambassador at the studio, and yeah, I did it. I did it for Augie. I was like, yeah, I mean, I think like I got an idea. Let me know if this works. And I just like I spit the verse for him, and he was like, oh yeah, that's it. All right, let's do it. And yeah, we pulled up the mic, and I'm not somebody who works like super quick, so I'm not saying this to like brag or be like, oh yeah, this is what I do. Not at all. But like we got it done in about 2 takes. Like we did one, the way I had originally, had it in my head, and then Augie like threw an idea at me, like some more melodic stuff, and yeah, we put those together, and that's how it came out, and it fit. Like I think it fit pretty well. It always feels so good when we do it at the shows. So I'm a fan of it. It's a dope song.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. It seems like there's so much like synchronicity and I mean I've talked to several people who are kind of in that circle, and I feel like everyone's just so supportive of each
Yeah,
other, and everything just kind of
yeah.
flows, which is I feel it in my entire life I never really experienced any of that or really witnessed it firsthand, and so I think it's really cool. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
think, you asked me too, my bad, you asked me if that was something difficult, or easy, like, to kind of build all these relationships and whatnot. And I think I'll say, like, when I think about it as networking, or like, kind of like work, like, oh, I gotta, talk to this person because this person can help me with this, like, then that's difficult because it doesn't feel genuine. But I think when it's in a way that, we just end up having a conversation, or we're getting to know each other on a slightly deeper level. We don't have to be, pouring our souls out to one another, but like when it feels more organic, I think that's super easy, because like I like meeting people, I like hanging out with people. So yeah, it's just like, I guess it's really about the mindset that I approach it with, and that, everybody else approaches it with as well.
Yeah. So tell me more about that mindset.
Um,
And where did it come from?
hmm. Uh, Man, I don't know. I guess just trial and error. Yeah, I don't know. I have always like been pretty decent at talking to people. I always enjoy talking to people. But like I said, like when I first started doing music seriously, and I would go to these different events, and these networking events and stuff like that. I still don't really enjoy doing those types of things, although sometimes they do bear fruit, and prove to be helpful. But it's just like when there's that expectation put on it, like, oh, I gotta go here, and I gotta, get 5 business cards, or I gotta send my Spotify link to 10 people, or, whatever it is. When I'm putting expectations on it like that, that's when it starts to feel like work, and it feels like I gotta play a role or something like that. And I think I just kind of figured out that, just doing it a little bit more naturally, and in terms of just like, going to hang with somebody, taking somebody out for lunch, or, grab a drink, or going to somebody's show to support them, and talking to them after the show, or that type of thing. I think there's a lot of different ways you can kind of go about like building these relationships in a healthy way, and like in a genuine way that, I think will help you sustain them much longer. They help me sustain them much longer, personally.
Yeah, and you mentioned too how it kind of takes the pressure off. And I feel like with creative projects, it can you can very easily like make it turn into
Yes.
work and end up hating
Yes.
it. So I feel like it's important to find a way to make it a part of your life, and to keep it a part of your life, because I mean, initially, like, that's what you want to do. It's like fun for you,
Hmm.
right? So what are some ways that you're able to keep it light and keep it fun and keep it something that you enjoy?
In terms of the process of making music, or just the whole thing, or
The whole thing, just like even just being able to wake up every day and keep doing it even when you're stuck, you know?
man, I think, I don't know, it sounds kind of basic, but the the feeling I get from making something that I enjoy, like even if it's like making a small change in a line in a song, or adding a synth line or adding some kind of instrument to a beat that I got going already, or just making some kind of change, and then being able to email that to myself and throw it on in my car and like hear it, and like that's just such a dope feeling. I just like never ever get tired of that. So I think when everything else, when the like business side of things, or when the booking side of things, or the merch side of things, just there's so many different like aspects of it, which that I wasn't super aware of. I don't think most people are when they're first like saying, "Oh, I want to make music." I think they, at least me personally, I can only speak for me. I thought making music was just making music. Like you just get paid to make music. And so, but now, I learn to enjoy those things and love those things too, because those are also part of the process. But really, when I get super frustrated with any one thing, I think just going back and working on music, whether it's the smallest thing, whether it's live AF from my Instagram, or whether it's, trying to break down my whole album and figure out where I'm going thematically, and having those conversations, like it all works towards the greater good, and the like, continuing to let that creative, energy flow, because I really do think it's a current that you have to continue to feed and to use.
Yeah, so it's like keeping up the
Yes,
momentum too, I think is really important.
yes.
So have you had situations where, or when you are in a situation that you do get stuck, or like something goes, completely wrong, like maybe you've had a project that just completely like went off the rails
hmm
and wasn't happening. What steps do you take to get back?
Um, I think one of the biggest things that I just like figured out not that long ago is just like having I like to say like having a full clip or having like ammo or whatever, but it doesn't have to be violent. It could just be like having stuff in the stash, like having content in the stash, having ideas, projects in the stash, other things moving, so that if one thing falls, you can just, all right, you can hop over to the next thing and keep riding that wave a little bit. And that's not to say, spread yourself super thin, but just like at least have a handful of things that you're kind of devoting your like energy and attention to, so that like if you hit a roadblock in one thing, it's you don't have all your momentum moving in that direction, and then all your momentum is just stopped, and then you have to completely stop and reevaluate. Whereas if you have this song over here that okay, this is not as strong as like this big idea that I have right here, but I'll just keep it in my back pocket just in case. Or man, I really like this beat, I'd love to do something to it, but maybe I'm just not in the right frame of mind to get to it, and I just set that off to the side. And then when something goes wrong with that main thing or something else that I'm working on, I can hop back over here, and maybe now I'm in a different headspace and can approach it differently, and that could end up being my big thing, whatever it is. So that goes for trying to do videos, songs, content for Instagram and social media, all of those things. I find when I have at least a few of those things going on, like it helps keep the overall momentum going. Because I think, like you said, momentum is the big word in all of this. You want to keep that going as much as possible.
Yeah, and just not get super hyper focused and, the cliche, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yes, it is very true. Very true.
Yeah. So what's your situation like, as far as like, are you able to live 100% off music, or do you have other side hustles or even just like a full-time job?
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, no, I do a lot of freelance stuff. I did Uber for, man, I don't even know how many, like 2.5 years, something like that. I moved into like doing freelance video, so video editing, shooting video. I was doing a lot of that last year. Recently I moved more into like doing transcription and translation stuff, like just computer project based work. And then I drive for Amazon Flex on the side just to keep everything moving. So yeah,
Oh yeah, and that's when your car got
that
stolen,
is
huh?
when my car got stolen.
Oh.
Oh man, yeah.
You're just trying to make some money, man,
Exactly.
and just
Just trying to
hustle.
keep it
Jeez.
going. Yes, that was crazy. Yeah, so my car got stolen last. Should I talk about it? Is that, do you want me to?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I feel like it's a really good story.
Okay. Yeah, so last Tuesday? Yeah, last week, a week ago. I was in Lakeview doing, delivering packages, and I hopped out to just drop something off at like the front door of this apartment building. And I stepped back out. Like I didn't even go inside the building. I had to walk through a gate and up to the door and then come back out. I come back out of the gate. I see my car rolling down the street. I'm like, that's not how I left it. So I sprint up to the corner, catch the driver at the corner, because they don't even realize, like they don't see me, that I guess whatever, they're just going at a normal pace. So I bang on the window, I'm like, get out of the car. And it ends up being this young girl, and she just like looks at me and she's all freaked out, and she floors it and starts driving down Halsted. And luckily, I have a device in my car that sends me diagnostics and whatnot, but it's also like tracks the location of my car. So I was able to see through the app on my phone where my car was, and came across a divvy bike, hopped on a divvy bike and rode for I'm bad at math, and so I haven't done the math on this, but I rode from Diversity in Halsted to 35th in Halsted. So if anybody, wants to do that math, then go ahead. But I just know I was tired. Uh, and yeah, ended up meeting up with my dad. My dad happened to be around, and he helped me basically follow the app, the location on the app, all the way to where the car was. Ended up being in South Shore, or some call it Terrortown. It's like not the nicest part of Chicago, and yeah, it was over there, and we kind of followed her and like the other person that she was with over to Inglewood, came back to South Shore, called the police every time they parked. It was about 2 or 3 hour ordeal, I would say, and then finally, like, the police did their thing. So it worked out, but yeah, it was a lot of it's like a day of detective work, I guess. It was crazy.
Yeah,
it was super
I
crazy.
called you Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, yes, it was
Oh
wild.
man. So you got quite the workout in, and you used to play basketball, and you were able to ride your divvy so super
Yeah.
far. So do you like, is physical, like fitness, like a part of your life?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I try to. I mean, I try and maintain some level of conditioning. I haven't been doing so well in the last month. I'm not gonna lie to you. I went to Puerto Rico and just like threw off, everything, just eating lechon every day. But but no, definitely. I love playing sports. I haven't really jumped back into basketball like I want to. I messed my knee up a couple years ago, and it still got me a little spooked on that. But yeah, my girlfriend and I, like, we try and stay active. We play tennis when the weather permits. Ride bikes. Yeah, like I do push-ups in my room. Like I do basic stuff, just like a lot of body weight stuff. And then yeah, and then try and get some cardio in when I can. Probably should be better with that, but momentum. As long as there's some momentum, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm like, during my prep period, I always do like a trigger session because I'm on this like consistent mission forever, probably, to grow my butt.
Okay.
And so it's like I have to do these like trigger sessions. So it's like 10 minutes. I do like a circuit like in my class during my prep, and I'm just like, I just hope nobody like barges into my room, because they'll be like, "What are you
You
doing?"
never know. They might be like, "Wow, that's really cool. Can you teach me? Like, I want to get swole like you." So you never know.
Oh my gosh. No, I was pulling, I'm not real like super swole or anything, but it is funny that I was pulling like my podium, and I was wearing a t-shirt, and one of my students was like, "Whoa, Miss Diaz, look at that tricep." I was like, "What?" Like, stop it. You're
Nice.
embarrassing me. No. But no, that's fun. So because your dad played basketball, I'm sure that kind of got you into sports. You said you played dodgeball, so it was just, you've always found that it was important?
Yeah, I've always just been into it. Yeah, I kind of actually I was explaining this to Justin after we were leaving Chris's house the other day, that like I kind of look at basketball and sports in general, and hip hop as like kind of like family members or like siblings or people that I grew up with, because like they're just so familiar. They just been around since day one. I had a Fisher Price rim in my room before like I could walk, really. Like I've always had basketball stuff around me. My mom's always been super active. She ran track and cross country in high school, and she's run like 11 marathons, so she's super into fitness. Even like my grandma runs still, I think. Like my family is just very active in general. But yeah, I've always had a love for basketball. I still to this day like love basketball with all my heart. I just didn't love it enough to, take it to that next step. But yeah, I always, I love basketball. Like me and my closest friends, that's pretty much all we talk about is basketball. So yeah, it's always going to be important to me in some kind of way. I think honestly, I've been talking to Vanessa and like a few of my other friends, and I feel like martial arts is kind of really that next step that I want to take. I'm in the process right now trying to figure out which one. My grandpa actually teaches Salat, out out in Hawaii. So like part of me is like, like my dream is to just kind of go out there with him and like, be trained in Salat. But I don't know. He was showing me some stuff.
Do like do the Karate Kid thing with
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
so you can be his little understudy and then come back and do it wherever you want.
Right, and just be a master. But he showed me some stuff the other like it wasn't this last Christmas, but like 2 Christmases ago, and it kind of hurt. So like, and he told me he was like, "Yeah, this is gonna hurt." So I'm like, man, and that might be some like soft stuff.
Like you guys were sparring?
No, he was just like
sparring or what?
No, he would just show me like, all right, now try and hit me this way, and like show me like all the, releases and like the, all the movements and whatnot. I don't even know. I feel like I'm butchering this right now. They might not even let me study Salat after this, but but
hey, it's a growth process.
Sure.
You can't know everything. Everyone's a beginner.
You're right. You're right. I'm most definitely a beginner, but yeah, but I'm pretty interested in Salat. I'm interested in Muay Thai. Just because like my frame, I've been told that, having long limbs, Muay Thai is like a pretty solid one to try. So we'll see. I don't know. I gotta settle on one because, somebody was talking to me about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu the other day and like, that whole thing. So who knows? But that's the goal is to jump into one of those.
I dabbled in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in high school. It was like my freshman year of high school.
Really?
And I really loved it.
Really?
Yeah, it was great. But yeah, with you're really tall.
Yes.
So yeah, like when they mentioned Muay Thai, who's the Silva? Is it Anderson Silva?
Yeah, Anderson Silva. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like they call him the Spider, right?
Yeah.
And he like specializes in Muay Thai. That's like his main gig.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like that might be a good move. Why not try all of them?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Just see what you like.
You're right. I might do that if I come up on some serious martial arts cash. Yeah, I will do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's dope though that
great.
you did. Wait, were we talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Is that what it was? Were we talking about that the other day?
So.
No. Okay, because I was talking to somebody about it, but you liked it though.
I did. I loved it. Yeah. You know why I quit? I stopped doing it because I decided I wanted to play tennis in high school.
Ah, really?
But I was so bad at tennis.
Really?
I was like so bad.
It's hard.
And one time we had an exhibition team, which like never played, like you're basically just on because they're trying to be nice.
Sure.
And so they let me play one time and we were playing like the worst school in the like in whatever, like in the area. And I lost 0-7.
Oh,
like,
damn.
Oh, it was so bad. And I'm pretty sure they put me against like their worst player. And then I never played again. Like they never let me pick up a racket like at a match ever again.
Oh,
and so
man.
I had given up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for it and I never went back.
Oh man. Well, you tried it though. You gave it a shot, so you got to respect that.
I did.
Yeah.
At least I tried.
You did.
At least I tried.
You did. I was the same way with baseball. If that makes you feel any better, I was terrible at baseball because I have like not the best depth perception. But I would hit a bomb every once in a while just because I was like a bigger kid, But I was garbage at baseball. So
That's kind of like Michael Jordan, right? Like he wasn't the best at baseball.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
he's still the GOAT.
Right.
So, oh, that's hilarious. So let's talk about failures.
Sure.
So what's your take on that? How do you see failures?
Man, failures suck, but I feel like I'm gonna sound pretty like cliche, but they're kind of necessary, I mean, they're not kind of necessary; they are necessary. If you don't fail, you don't know what not to do. So like, I mean, that's the best way I could put it. Failure has just taught me like, all right, well, that doesn't work. Probably shouldn't do that, and by kind of, I guess, deductive reasoning, if you fail enough, I think you figure out what to do, if you're intentional enough in what you're trying to do and specific enough. I'm not saying if you try everything and you fail at everything, like, you're gonna, if you don't put any work into your craft or whatever, you're definitely going to fail at it. But if you put the work in, and you continue to try different approaches and you continue to fail, I just feel like you're picking up lessons. You're picking up, You're figuring out where the landmines are on the map, so you know where you can step and where you can't. So I think it's essential, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good. It's like if you can flip it and realize that it's like people aren't failures, right? Like something that ticks me off about just like school in general is that like you know you can get an F and it's
Mm,
like, oh, you're gonna fail.
yeah,
And it just seems like that's like the ultimate road, right? And it's like it's really just it's part of being a human, it's part of growing, it's part of learning. And I hate that we just train people to avoid
yeah,
failure.
yeah. I agree.
And yeah, and so I definitely think it's important to to share that as much as we can, that failure is just part of the journey, and it's always and like you said, it's like it'll guide you to where you need to go.
Yes, absolutely. Honestly, yeah, you know what? That's like really, I never thought about that, but the fact that, yeah, an F does stand for fail. Like, or if you fail a class, you did not do it right, you got to do it over again. I guess that's not the worst thing because you got to learn the material, but you know what I'm saying? Like the word that we associate that word with, you know, with, I don't know, it just has such a negative connotation. So I guess I just more look at it like they really are just lessons, lessons, and you're picking up experience, you're picking up XP, you know.
Yeah, it's almost like I don't know. I've as I've gotten older, I've gotten because I used to be really afraid of messing up
Sure,
and like looking stupid,
sure, me too.
and I used to like hate listening to my voice recorded. Like it was just so cringy to me. But I'm sure most people experience
Yep.
that. Um, but it's almost like now that I've switched my mindset when it comes to failure. Like I almost seek it out.
Mm,
Like I almost like I want to fail. I want to fail at something because it means that I'm
for
trying
sure.
and I'm doing something that I'm uncomfortable with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think honestly we live in probably the best time ever to fail as well, especially in the things that we're doing. You with your podcast, me with my music, anybody doing creative endeavors like, things like Instagram and YouTube are built so that people can watch the journey, people can see like from where you started to where you're currently at and the twists and turns in that path. And I think, I used to be somebody, for example, who was like obsessed with Lauryn Hill and D'Angelo. And they have, and for a time like Frank Ocean, because like they have um as close to like spotless discographies as you can get pretty much. And I was just like enamored with that concept, like, oh man, like you mean I could have, or even, even Kendrick, like, man, like I could have a clean sheet, like I got tens out of 10, like 10 out of tens on everything. That's crazy, like straight A's pretty much. I was really obsessed with that. And I think it kind of like hindered me from putting out as much quality content as I could, or even like working on my craft as much, because I wanted everything to come out so perfect, as opposed to like throwing out ideas and just trying to refine those ideas over time. And like I do think there's a development period that artists need to go through before they should really present themselves to the public, so that they can have those failures and know how to reproduce success. But I also feel like, this era that we're in of like, some might say overexposure, but just like openness, and vulnerability, I think is a perfect storm to show people like your struggles and what you went through to get to where you are. Cause everybody loves to see the journey and hear a come up story.
Yeah, and it humanizes everything,
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, and I almost feel like who was it? It was Ira Glass from This American Life. Do you listen to NPR at all?
Yeah, actually, I used to all the time
Yeah.
when I did Uber, but I still do every once in a while. Yeah.
Yeah, so they I have they're close to my heart because that's how I started caring about the world when I worked there.
Nice.
And so, but he said something. I was reading a book, or I was listening to a book, because I don't actually pick up a book and read it, I'll be
That's
honest.
fair.
So I was listening to an audiobook, and they mentioned how he said that when it comes to creative projects, like you have to just put tons of volume out. Like because everything's gonna suck at
Hmm.
first. And it has to suck. And the most creative, successful people always know that there's something missing. And so they just keep putting things out because eventually they know that they'll get there, but they know that there's always something that they're working toward. And they're not afraid to just keep putting that volume out because the practice, it's like, again, Malcolm Gladwell with like outliers, right? Like you put in your 10,000 hours and like that first, 9,500 hours are probably terrible, but then you can become a master, which I feel like, do you think that's how martial arts is?
I think so. I think you just, I think you get your, can we curse on here? Should I refrain? I was you get your,
No, it's explicit.
Oh, okay, cool. You get your ass whooped enough, and then you're just like, all right, well, I know how to not get my ass whooped enough to whoop somebody else's ass. So I guess that makes me a master, or defend myself, because I guess that's the point. And I'm just gonna stop talking about martial arts before they ban me from all, schools of martial arts for my ignorance.
I feel like they may be a little more enlightened, and so they'll appreciate your awareness of not knowing.
For sure.
Right?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
We can only hope.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So is there anything that you've learned from anybody that you met that helps you keep going, when things get tough?
Oh man, that's a good one. There is a guy, so I always I go back to this story whenever I talk about my last album, Gringo, because it was kind of the moment that helped me come up with the title. I went to Brazil in 2015. And that was kind of like my study abroad or whatever, like my self-study abroad. And so I went down there and I was in a bar and I was in Rio for, I want to say a week. And then I went to Salvador for a week. And then I went back to Rio for a week and a half, couple weeks, something like that. But anyway, during the first leg in Rio, I was just obsessed with blending in and speaking Portuguese so well that nobody knew where I was from and not giving off that I was an American in any way, shape, or form, just to see how, whatever. And I got so consumed with that I would get kind of bummed out if somebody would notice my accent and be like, hey, where are you from? And I don't know, I guess I had vocalized that to some dude, this random dude I was talking to at this cachaça bar that I was at with some of my friends. And, he and I were just we're talking about Cuba because he had spent some time in Cuba or whatever. And basically he was like, yeah, he asked me where I was from and I told him, I was from Chicago and all that. And I guess I expressed yeah, man, I want to get my Portuguese better so I can just completely blend in. And he just was like, nah, man, yeah, you want to get better, but you don't want to run away from who you are. You are who you are. You're from where you're from. You can't change that. You just got to be the best version of that. And that's something really basic. But at the time, that wasn't something that was in the front of my mind. The thing that was in the front of my mind was blending in and fitting in into this culture or whatever. And as cool as it was, I think he helped me realize that I could, bring myself and where I'm from and my culture to a different, area or situation and make it that much better and make it that much richer of an experience because I'm providing something as well, rather than just trying to kind of fit into this, caricature or mold that I see, from, having limited experience. So I think that's something that. Go ahead.
Why do you think you wanted to blend in so badly?
Oh man, that's a good question. I was I think this was around the time that the presidential stuff was heating up with Hillary and Trump, and it was just looking so bad that people were asking me yo, what's going on over there? What are you guys doing? And I was just I don't know, man. I have no idea. I think I kind of have this dream in my head of living abroad and just settling down in a whole new culture and just adapting to that culture and just becoming integrated into that community and doing that a few times in my life. So I think that was my first time out, kind of really out of the US by myself. I went by myself And like, I was like, man, like, can I really do this? Could I do this? Could I live out here on my own and become like, a part of this society? But I think in general, like I was just, I still kind of would like to do that, but I was just putting too much pressure on myself. I don't think it was that serious, to be quite honest. But but that's just something I've learned from, having like doing stupid stuff in Spanish, like having, weird, awkward interactions because I said something wrong, or I like, flubbed a word, or like, whatever it is, made a mistake. And same in Portuguese. I just had like so many of those that I finally started getting to the point where I was just like, hey, I know what I know. Like I'm at the level that I'm at. I can communicate. I can have a conversation with somebody. So like all the like little particulars like that'll come. I just got to keep working through that and not put so much pressure on myself.
Yeah, it's like you let go of perfection.
Exactly.
Right?
And you just,
so that you could actually enjoy
yeah,
it.
and just be present. So I think, I don't know if that dude was trying to tell me all that stuff, but that's what I got from, what he said. So
That's really cool. Yeah, it is funny how random people will drop into your life and will help you see a little bit more of
yeah,
yourself.
for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So what do you think I'm curious, like why the obsession with being perfect ever? Like why where do you think that came from? Even if it went away?
Why the session? It definitely didn't go away. I just kind of like learned how to manage it, I would say. I don't know. I've always kind of like, I feel like I get really into the stuff that I'm into, and the stuff that I'm not into, I don't care. Like I don't give a shit about at all, and my mom would always say that when I was growing up, like, yeah, like you try when you're into something, but if you don't, then you just don't. So I feel like if there's something that I'm like into and is worth giving my time, then I want to be the absolute best at it, and not like better than anyone else per se, but just like the best that I can possibly be at that. So like, when I started making beats, I was like, man, I gotta like be the best, like this style that I have, like this kind of imagination, this distillation of influences that I have, like I gotta make this like the most refined version I possibly can. I gotta like make it as groovy as I possibly can, and so that's kind of, I guess that's the mentality with it, and same with Spanish. It's like, yeah, I mean, why not? Like I put so much time into learning it, and like I love the culture so much, and I see what comes from like being able to open that door and like knock down that language barrier and be able to like communicate with somebody in their native language. Like it just kind of opens up an entire world. And like, I just want to be able to like get deeper and deeper into that world. And I feel like language is like the biggest key. I feel like if you're trying to get into, like, not even get into, but just be able to understand a different culture, you kind of got to understand the language to a certain extent. And
Yeah, so you could be a part of it,
right,
right?
right.
Yeah. And I mean, it seems to me that like, what you learned from that guy, giving you a little snippet of enlightenment was really
Yeah.
just, to value progress over perfection, right? It's like you were in there, you were doing it, just like embrace who you are. Just keep growing, keep getting better, but don't let it get you down when it's not
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like at the end of the day, like people respect you for trying more than anything. I think that's what I've noticed.
Hell yeah. Oh man, Bardo, that was a great conversation. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for coming on the podcast.
Yes, thank you for
I
having me. It
appreciate
was
it.
awesome. It was a great time. Hopefully I can come back again. I don't know. I'll update you on my
Of
martial
course.
arts progress, you know?
Oh, definitely. Maybe we'll do like a video podcast on YouTube,
Damn.
and then you could also show us some moves. So there's no
Nah,
pressure.
I'm cool. Nah, like no expectations, whatever. Yeah, we'll just knock some blocks down. Yeah.
Right. All right, cool. All right, thanks. Have a good night. I'll talk to
All
you
right, you
later.
too. Peace.
Bye. Here are some key takeaways from my conversation with Bardo. 1. Language learning can be truly magical. It can expand and influence your creativity as well as your fan base. Living and really seeing different cultures has a way of completely changing your perspective on life. 2. Know how to identify the connectors in your life. Appreciate them and stay in touch with them. They'll introduce you to people and open you up to scenes you otherwise wouldn't even know existed. 3. Creative projects can very easily turn into work that you don't enjoy. When the business side of things gets tough, don't forget to get back to the music. Enjoy the little things and fall in love with the process. Let your creative energy flow. 4. Have ideas and content stashed in your back pocket so that if you hit a roadblock, a project doesn't pan out, an event is canceled, or you just have to take a mental time off, you can keep up the momentum. And 5, don't be afraid to fail. Failure is part of the journey, and each failure is actually a detour that will guide you to where you need to go. If you're not failing, you're not trying, and you're definitely not doing anything. Thank you so much for joining us on the Tour Life podcast. Be sure to give Bardo a follow on Instagram at whereisbardo, and don't forget to subscribe, leave a review on iTunes, and to follow the Tour Life on Instagram at the Tour Life podcast.